Hello mates, welcome to Budgie Keat Gaming. I'm your host Finley. If you didn't already know, Sony is hosting an hour-long State of Play event on February 12th. Unlike Nintendo, Sony gives you a little bit of a heads up about the event, which I always appreciate. Like my recent Nintendo Direct video, which I'll have linked below if you'd like to check out. This video will be divided into two sections. The first section being everything I expect to see announced, and the second section will cover what I want to see announced. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button, as I plan on doing videos like these for every State of Play and Nintendo Direct event, along with ranking everything shown at each event, which I also just did with the Nintendo Direct, and I'll link that video in the description as well. I'll start with the two most obvious predictions, the first being Danganronpa 2x2. The reason I feel like this is obvious is because a collector's edition just went up for pre-order this week. There still isn't an announced release date, so I'm thinking there will be a story trailer along with a release date announcement. I would assume it'll be released this year, and I feel like a summer release seems most likely, even though this series is perfect for the autumn spooky season. The next most obvious game is Directive 8020. In case you're wondering why this is an obvious pick, this just got a release date announcement trailer, so we now know it's releasing May 12th. It looks like a nice sci-fi twist for fans of the Dark Pictures series. I don't really think we'll see much from this game since we already have the release date, probably just another trailer highlighting the gameplay or story. I'm expecting to get some more news on Saros, a roguelite bullet hell from the makers of Returnal. Honestly, I haven't followed much of this game since I had no interest in banging my head against a wall like I would have with Returnal. But from my limited knowledge of both games, they kinda look like they could be linked together in some way. Even though I have no intention of playing either game mentioned, it would be cool to see the devs create a linked universe, since this already has a release date of April 30th, and the date isn't too far away. I imagine anything shown will mostly be for marketing purposes and to get some hype generated for this title. Another game that I think is a given for this showcase is Sony's biggest game of the year, which is Wolverine. Now, I'm not expecting them to announce a release day. I suspect they'll save that for a massive summer event announcement. That'll also give them time to figure out exactly what's going on with GTA 6, even though I'm thinking GTA won't make much difference for Wolverine, as I'm guessing Wolverine will be a September or October game. What I do see Sony showing off is more gameplay. I'm honestly expecting that to play a big part of the show, partly because the show is a massive hour long, so they have a lot of time to kill, and partly because we still haven't seen any official gameplay from this game. Based on the trailer they've already shown, I think it's pretty clear that some of what was shown is gameplay, but it'll be nice to see how the game runs and what the gameplay looks like in action. I feel like we'll get some sneak peeks of games Sony's working on, but are a long way off. And by a long way off, I mean 2027, 2028, and farther. I expect we'll get a trailer for Naughty Dog's Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet, with a 2027 release date. Probably not an exact date, just a vague 2027 date. I expect there'll be a vague hint about a new game in the Last of Us franchise. This might be a bit of a hot take, but I'm also expecting there'll be a tease of Spider-Man in the Wolverine game. Not so much a brand new Spider-Man game, but more along the likes of a Spider-Man tie-in with the Wolverine game, such as a substantial DLC teased. I know it sounds stupid to announce DLC before the game is even released, but the latest Pokemon game did it. I honestly think most major AAA titles that are guaranteed to sell millions of copies can get away with this. I also think we will see trailers for some third-party games that won't be releasing any time in the near future, with the headliner for this section being The Witcher 4, with a brand new gameplay trailer reveal. Speaking of third-party RPGs, I think we will get more info on the Gothic remake, and I think they'll finally confirm it is coming out in 2027. I know it's supposed to come out in the first quarter of 2026, but we really haven't seen much of the game. There is no way it's coming out by the end of March. This little section is the boring stuff that is already announced, but I'm sure we'll see trailers anyway. I feel like we will get similar trailers as we just seen at the Nintendo Direct, such as the three big Capcom titles, Resident Evil 9, Pragmata, and Monster Hunter Stories 3, along with games releasing soon that we already know about, such as Fatal Frame Remaster, Life is Strange Reunion, and Rune Factory. I'm sure there'll also be an Xbox section showing games like Avowed, South of Midnight, and Forza Horizon 6, but hopefully we will also get some unannounced games such as Keeper, Fable, more Gears of War games, or even the older Fable games ported over to the PS5. I think it's about time for Remedy to show off their Max Payne remake. In August of last year, it was announced that both Max Payne remakes were in full production. With Remedy still aiming for a 2026 release date, now seems like a good time to start teasing with trailers. They recently lost their CEO and just replaced them with someone from EA Games, so hopefully Remedy doesn't turn to shit now. I'm expecting a nice little indie section, showing off some indie games and nailing down firm release dates for titles like Mixtape and Witchbrook. One of the last games I expect to see is Blood of the Dawn Walker. That game still has a 2026 release, and we haven't seen much of it, so I'd imagine they have a lot to show off at this point. If we don't see anything here, I have a feeling it'll be pushed back into 2027. This game sounds interesting, so I'm really hoping they can pull off a 2026 release. Another dark RPG I think we'll get more info on is Game Freak's Beast of Reincarnation. It's awesome seeing them doing something so different from Pokemon, so I'm hoping it turns out decent. And to close off the show, I expect a triple announcement from Square Enix. First, I expect a Dragon Quest remake announcement, being the 4th or 8th game of the series. It's already been confirmed they're working on more Dragon Quest remakes, as they've been on record saying the reason they decided to release a remake for 7 is because it was finished first, heavily implying there are more Dragon Quest remakes in the works. And with 7 just being released, now seems like a great time to announce such games. Lastly, I see a double Final Fantasy announcement. There have been rumors for quite a while now that Final Fantasy 6 and 9 are getting remakes. I could see them announcing one of these. If I had to pick one game in particular, I would say 9, as that game was leaked a few years ago. Normally, I would assume a leak that is a few years old would be wrong, especially since we haven't heard anything else about this game since. But the main reason I think this is happening is because multiple games were leaked with the Final Fantasy IX remake, and a good portion of those games have already been released, so I'm still holding out hope that it'll happen. After that announcement, I see it, leading right into the final announcement, with Final Fantasy VII Part 3, with gameplay trailers and a date announcement of early next year. It seems like the perfect time since they just released Part 1 to great success on the Switch 2. Along with the announcement of releasing Part 2 on the Switch 2 this summer, it just seems to make sense to keep the momentum going. Now for what I'm hoping for, well, it's a lot of unrealistic hopes of Sony returning to its roots. My main hope is for a new Ratchet and Clank announcement. They were popping these games out like crazy during the PS3 era, and honestly, they were all tons of fun. Some were better than others, but I liked all of them, and it's so sad to see this franchise being neglected. It's been nearly 5 years since the last release, with no new game in sight. Keeping in the theme of games we're not going to see, I'd love for a new Sly Cooper announcement. It's been 13 years since we've last seen a game from this series, and at this point, I don't see it happening. We do have the 25th anniversary coming next year, so maybe, hopefully, probably not, but I'd love to see it, even if it's just a remaster. You know what else is overdue? A sequel to Puppeteer. Yup, that weird-ass platformer that most didn't know about since it didn't even sell 250,000 units, which is a shame because it was a lot of fun. I wish we could at least get a remaster even though the original still looks really good. I know I already talked about these in my predictions, but I would like to see a confirmed date for Mixtape, and I'd love to see more info on Witcher 4, Final Fantasy VII Part 3, and a Wolverine date announcement. And of course, a confirmed date for Witchbrook. Yup, I'm not shutting up about Witchbrook until we get a release date. I'm going to be as annoying as fans waiting for Silksong, or fans waiting for a PS5 release of Bloodborne. Speaking of which, I don't see Bloodborne making an appearance. So yeah, those are my wants and expectations. What are you expecting to see from this showcase? Do you think we'll see any of my predictions? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, take care, mates.